John. Good. Do you want me to do that one too?
That link, wasn't mentioning much about it earlier. One you sent me like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, had some really good finds there.
Oh yeah, that's Saturday morning.
And I'm just afraid that someone's going to go over one of those railings.
All right, City Council will get started, albeit belatedly, at 6:40 PM. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mr. Sinapi? Here. Mr. DeLuise? Mr. Foley? Mr. Gephardt?
Here.
Mr. Kirby?
Here.
Mr. Ladisa?
Here.
Mr. Muto?
Here.
Mr. Napa? Mr. Ricks?
Here.
9 present.
All right, where are we at? Let's see. Councilman Gephardt, please do the salute to the flag. All right, first up, general communications, announcements of congratulations, condolences, or community events. Does anyone have anything for general communications? Councilman Gebhardt.
Thank you, Council President, and to my colleagues, thank you for carrying the load while I was missing here. I'm going to ask for a moment of silence for a dear friend of my wife and I, Leah Carla Musto Clifton, who passed much too young.
We all please have a moment of silence. All right, moving on to executive communications, there are none. Next is public comment. Rule 41, after general communications and prior to the consent calendar at the last regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council each month, there shall be a period of time not to exceed 30 minutes during which citizens may comment about Warwick city government issues, subject to the following stipulations. The total period of time for public comment shall not exceed 30 minutes. Comments need to be brief in order to allow as many citizens as possible to participate. Each citizen signed up and present shall have not to exceed 5 minutes to speak, provided, however, that if more than 6 citizens are signed up and present, the 30 minutes will be split evenly amongst the speakers. Time shall not be transferable amongst speakers. The topics for comment shall be issues directly affecting city government. City council members will not respond to questions during the public comment period. The public comment session will terminate at the expiration of the earlier of all speakers, concluding their allotted time or 30 minutes. Waiver of this provision requires a unanimous vote of the council. All right, first up is Rob Cody.
Rob Cody, Ward 7. Well, you may not believe this, but I found myself today in the rare and unique position of not knowing what to say tonight. I didn't attend the hearings because of the anger that I festered after reviewing and digesting a, once again, unsustainable budget. I am concerned and upset because it is evident that no one has the skill set to extrapolate the continued escalating budget expenses, mostly attributable to salary increases and benefits, and to understand the long-term consequences on the city's residents, especially the elderly and those on fixed incomes. I've been speaking about waste, theft, and abuse of the taxpayers' dollars here in Warwick for years, and there has been no action taken to enhance efficiency in the city in any of the departments. Reckless spending seems to have no boundaries in the city. I've listened to the fire chief and his assistant continue to make false statements, whether pertaining to sick time, overtime, unnecessary apparatus runs, and personnel requirements. As examples, Chief McMichael stated in public during discussions of the Boston schedule that moving to that schedule would save $650,000 a year in overtime. The facts, in 4 years, not including this past fiscal year, his department used in excess of $8.8 million of overtime over and above his budgeted allotment for overtime, with no consequences and no questions from this council except from Councilman Lattiser and Councilman Ricks. I'm just guessing, but maybe that's because 7 of the 9 council members have taken large contributions from the fire union PACs. Just my thoughts. The schemes just don't end. From 1,700 sick days to 3,000 changes of shift, to driving around wasting fuel, wear and tear, it's evident that this chief and his department are not concerned at all about the cost of the taxpayers, and they certainly lack the skill set to run the department in a fiscally sound manner. With regards to DPW, I don't know how many videos I have to make pertaining to workers driving around, not working, hiding out, wasting fuel and time, all on the taxpayers' dime. For the last 8 years, stated within the DPW contract is a stipulation that states there shall be an employee proficiency and productivity committee to ensure operational productivity. Yet to this date, it doesn't exist, although it's a contract requirement. What has the council done about it? Nothing. We just continue to ignore the waste. How many photos do I have to send in text messages to members of the council and the poor chief of staff of water department personnel hiding out behind the compost station at 1:30 virtually every day? Why are there water department vehicles in the compost station at 1:30? Why do workers leave their workstation at 11:30 in the morning to drive halfway across the city so they can go back to the city yard to have lunch and then drive back across the city to return to where they were working? This activity is anything but efficient and productive, yet it happens every day with no corrective measures in place. Mr. Muto, you told me a year and a half ago that you were introducing legislation to put GPS in every vehicle. Where's the legislation? When will we have that conversation? My guess is it won't happen. The fact of the matter is that the city is not being run in an efficient and cost-effective manner like a professional business, and the long-term consequences are right around the corner. There will be a rude awakening to the taxpayers when the school bonds come due. Speaking of schools, we have a department carrying millions in deficits with no real definitive plan to reduce the liabilities, yet the teachers want continued raises and benefits while producing proficiency levels of 20% while maintaining the highest paid teachers in the state with some of the lowest scores. But yet somehow they feel new buildings will change all that. This budget shows $3.8 million in raises, which is unsustainable. Here's what needs to be done to correct this catastrophic path that we're on. Pay freezes need to go into effect immediately for the next several years. Employees need to contribute more to healthcare costs. Benefits need to be reduced to realistic benefit packages that are in line with the private sector. Retirees need to contribute to their post-employment benefits. And lifetime healthcare needs to be abolished as it's simply unsustainable. These are immediate steps, but there are more to take for sure. One last point pertaining to litigation liability. The city's fighting several lawsuits with millions of dollars of settlements projected.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Cody.
Poor training of employees have been the cause of these lawsuits, and failure to recognize potential dangers is another. As an example, there are several lawsuits pending due to the tragedies at Connecticut Point. The steps that the city has taken, although in good faith, is not enough to reduce our potential liability and to increase safety for those unsuspecting patrons of the area. We need to do more because the fact of the matter is there will be more fatalities that you can count on. I implore the city to please do more to protect those that come to our city. And one last point to my councilman, Mr. Kirby, 2 budget hearings, $750 million of expenditures, and to this date, not one word, not one question. May I remind you that your obligation is to the taxpayers. That means understanding the subject matter and posing questions. To this date, you have done neither. Thank you.
And Sheridan?
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm not as eloquent as Mr. Cody is, but I would like to comment that I think the school department did a remarkable job in their presentations, and I think they are committed to change, and that they are starting to share some resources with the other side of the city, which is great. And I loved hearing about the bell and bus issue. And hope that they keep that up. I mean, I think all of us know that the only people that want to take a bus are the little kids. So, you know, if you're beyond elementary school, you're going to find any way to get out of a bus. So I think it's important for them to stay on top of the bus. They mentioned Chromebook schedules, and nobody's here from there, so I don't know how we're going to pass this by. But we all have heard over and over again how critical it is to keep our kids off electronics. So if they're going to start changing the schedule, I think they shouldn't allow Chromebooks before the 6th grade. I mean, kids get a chance to spend time at home, but I have a great-grandchild that got a Chromebook at kindergarten, and it was ridiculous because what does he do with it but play games? As Mr. Cody said, I think employee benefits are outrageous and a contentious issue between the taxpayers and all of the municipal employees, and I think something should be done, and we should start working now, and maybe you all do, but we should start working now. The president of the school union opened the door. She suggested that the current plan where they get 90 days and all of these benefits was something that the council decided 40 years ago, so things change, times change. Maybe we can work with them to get some changes sooner than later, because it has to happen. I mean, one of the things would be floaters. There's no reason why these people, that all of the employees have the same days. I mean, why some of them couldn't be converted into floating days, and that would certainly relieve a lot of the water, the sewer, police, and fire. I mean, the fire department's overtime is bordering on criminal, I would almost say. There has to be a way, and I mean, I don't know whether you could bring in outside consultants that can show something different, but something different has to happen. No person could work that much overtime that's calculated in this budget. It's not healthy, it's not safe. And they should be the ones that ask for better staffing. And if they're not, then we all, it may just bear out the truth that we all seem to think that most of them work a second job, and that internally they all mix their hours together to take their own benefits from it. I think we should look at changing collecting recycling to every other week. And I think most taxpayers would be happy with that if they knew there was some kind of mitigation in costs coming forward. We know the bottle bill's coming, so that's going to reduce the collection. And our own senator is talking about decreasing, working with, about boxes being delivered. And I can see, I have to admit, I get a lot of Amazon deliveries almost daily, and I'm seeing many of them in packages now, in envelopes rather than boxes. So it's probably cost effective to them, and that they're working on it. Somehow, some way, we've got to align the benefits that the employees are getting to what the average taxpayer would get. I mean, I worked in government, and I worked in private industry, and the difference is monumental. Most of you aren't old enough to hear the stories about when people...
You have 1 minute, Ms. Sheridan.
Okay, I won't go down there. I have two other things. One is there is proposals before you about tax freezes for apartments. That cannot happen. We should not be giving any apartment complex tax treaties. That's not going to go to help the renter, regardless of whatever, the documented restrictions are. These any restrictions in rental is considered when they're considering the fair market value of the apartment building that generates the tax. There is no way that the developer is going to say, I'm going to guarantee that X person who's in a rent control unit is going to get lower taxes. The savings is going to go somewhere, and I can almost guarantee you it's not going to go to the property, because it's not going to be enough. You got Sky Apartments that are...
Time's up, Ms. Sheridan.
Oh, can I have 1 more minute? Can I please? There's nobody else going to speak.
I can't, Ms. Sheridan, I'm sorry.
Okay. On my way going to sit down, I would just like to say I think you need to find money for the AP courses, because we need stellar students.
Michelle Landry, I believe. I apologize if I butchered that.
Michelle Landry, I am the Science Department Chairperson at Tollgate High School. I could not be here Tuesday for the budget for the schools because I am the advisor for the National Honor Society, and we had our annual induction ceremony on Tuesday, which went very, very well. I have 61 Honor Society kids at Tollgate High School who are doing great things. I just want to say, I emailed every council person my thoughts about the cuts to WTU. I'm losing a person in science, and I am very concerned about the courses we will be able to offer next year. Number one, because the loss of a teacher, which is likely going to result in the loss of elective classes. And number two, because of the policy that currently exists, that there have to be at least 12 course requests to run a class. AP classes do not always have 12 requests. They might have 6, they might have 8, they might have 10, but these are the kids who have every intention of going to a high-level 4-year college who need AP classes on their schedule. And to have that requirement for AP classes is just as much an injustice as saying that special ed classes can't run unless there are at least 12 students. It's the same injustice, just opposite ends of the spectrum. We run special ed classes with less than 12 kids because of the needs of those children. AP is the opposite end of the spectrum, and those kids deserve the classes that they want as much as the special ed kids do. I have a child who was in special education, so I am all about special education, but we have to honor the AP students as well. And I just want to leave by saying, balancing a budget by cutting teachers hurts students. Thank you.
Mary Townsend.
Good evening, City Council President, City Council members. Mary Townsend, Warwick taxpayer, lifetime Warwick resident, special education teacher assistant in Warwick Public Schools, completing my 45th year, active community member and volunteer throughout the District of Warwick. I am standing here thinking about the time that we have spent on all of the things that may appear to be now resolved. I believe there are things that could have been resolved in other ways. However, I'm going to say that I'm hopeful that this is the night when we all start to move forward, especially in Warwick Public Schools, doing the job and completing the mission that we have to do, which is educating and working for our students. So I want to thank all of you who are supporting the district in our efforts to just return to that place, to that happy place where we all should be anyway. Thank you.
Don Fife.
Council President and members of the City Council. I know you, Mr. President, mentioned in one of the previous meetings that you were working on senior citizen discount and a veterans discount. You were working on it? All right, the senior citizen discount hasn't been increased in years, probably 10 years or longer. Same with the veterans discount. We need that to help pay the property taxes. Whatever you can do, it would be greatly appreciated. It's been many, many years since we got an increase. So whatever you can do, thank you.
Darlene Netco.
Hi, Darlene Netco, Ward 7, teacher of 36 years in Warwick, 38 years overall, WTU president. I did make some comments the other night. I didn't have time to make some of them because I was educating the council on matters that our administration was a little bit cloudy on. What I had wanted to say the other night was just to take a little walk down memory lane, going back to fiscal year 2012 when the city, and it's nobody's responsibility here, but the city cut the schools by 5% below the maintenance of effort to an amount of about $6 million, which they never recouped. Then also in 2008, Mayor Avedisian had frozen the bond and didn't unfreeze it until a number of years later when the school department and school committee agreed to pay the interest on that bond. And as the late Eugene Nadeau used to point out, the only city or town in the country that required its schools to pay the cost of the bond. I know the last few years, the mayor and the city council has done better about funding the schools. The other point I wanted to make about funding, though, was that your own budget commission pointed out that last year the schools were underfunded by $2.1 million. This body never voted on that budget, even though the legislation said that it should have. I know there was some interpretation that the budget you voted on last May counted toward that legislation, but that really makes no sense. The Budget Commission, after almost a year, finally did come up with a deficit reduction plan. But as I've pointed out before, it was a full year wasted because our school committee and school department had started meeting with the Auditor General last January. So you had a Budget Commission that proved the schools needed more money. You had a Budget Commission that approved every cost of the school department except for $27,000 for Ed Puzzle and $100,000 for student assistance, which they told the city to pay for out of their opioid fund money. Going forward, if that 2.1 million had been voted on, if I know why it wasn't, because if it had become part of maintenance of effort, then you would have had to take that funding into account. As of right now, the mayor is funding what the school department has asked and is using the rainy day fund to pay for that 1.1 million that the Budget Commission said should be part of the deficit reduction for this year. The only question is, and I know it's difficult to ask, but as you heard, the school department has made some drastic decisions about cutting AP classes and reorganizing the Warwick Early Learning Center that will result in some hardships for students on our youngest students, our oldest students, our most needy students on both ends. So if you are able to do as you have done in the past, find some money and to tell the schools how they have to use it, that would be very helpful. I know you've done that in the past, and I know overall you only approve of the budget and you can't tell the schools how to use it. If you do appoint a little extra money for the AP classes and the WELC situation, that would be greatly appreciated. And as Mr. Napa said the other night, it was refreshing that we did not have the recriminations and the accusations and the issues that we've had in the past. So hopefully the city and the schools can work together for the betterment of all of our students. Thank you.
All right, next up, we're on budget items. First, before us is PCR 55-26, relative to transfers, supplemental appropriations, and emergency appropriations. So that we can get going on this, do we have a motion? Councilman Foley?
Point of information. So we want a motion for favorable action?
Unless you want to turn it down, yeah.
Louder.
Yes, unless you want to vote it unfavorable action.
No. So favorable action.
All right.
Second.
All right, motion made and second. Any discussion on the PCR 55-26? All right, seeing none, clerk will please call the roll. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right, next is PCR 56-26, resolution adopting the budget and estimating the tax rates of the city of Warwick for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, inclusive of FY27 general funds, FY27 personnel funds, FY27 special and capital funds budgets. All right, so first up, administration. Oh, all right, so first, do we have a motion? Again, same question, so that we can get going. Councilman Foley?
Move favorable action.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lassett for discussion. So, administration, I know you have some updates you want to make. You need rocks, paper, scissors for it.
Just give me 1 second while the computer loads. William Facente, Chief Staff. So the city is proposing, as far as amendments, page 34, we'll start in order, I guess. Page 11, Legislative Department, Professional Services, line 16-360. It's currently proposed at $79,653,000. We're asking to amend that by increasing it by $80,000, bringing the total to $159,653. Page 12, Finance Professional Services, line 18-360. Proposed is $150,000. Proposed amendment is to reduce it by $20,000, bringing the final total to $130,000. Page 15, line 25-303, Management Information Systems, telephone. Proposed is $179,000. Proposal is to amend that number down by $79,000, bringing the total to $100,000. Page 33, line 62-303, Public Works Administration General Services. I'm sorry, that should be, that's a typo. 62-303 should say telephone. Proposed is $1,000. Amendment is $9,000 increase, bringing it to total of $10,000. And line 30, page 34, line 63-380.
62 what?
63-380. Public Works Highway General Services. Proposed was $765, amending that to increase it by $90,000. Final is $90,765. And the final is page 53. Under revenue, it's a line 100-03690, fund balance drawdown. Increase, the original proposed was $3,274,725, increasing that by $80,000 to $3,354,725. Those are the administration's amendments.
All right, does anyone need to hear that again or miss anything first before we ask for a motion?
If you want any explanation on any of those.
Yeah, so first we need it moved and then second, and then we can get into the nitty gritty. Councilman Foley?
I move as read by the chief of staff.
Second, for
Seconded by-
purposes of discussion.
Seconded by Councilman Ricks. All right, discussion. I saw your light come on. Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. I suppose out of those, the one that stands out the most to me that I'd like to ask a question about would be the one on page 34, 63-380. I see that over the last several years, that line item, Public Works, Highway, General Services, has fluctuated quite a bit. So
Correct.
I'm curious as to what the intent is by increasing it by that amount.
So Councilman, a few years ago, this council, less maybe a few of the members, current members, decided to include ward projects funding, $10,000 per ward, equaling $90,000. That's where that fund sits. It's up to the council member in the respective council ward to request expenditure of that fund. And we, yeah.
Thank you.
To the mayor's point, we inadvertently left that out. It was an oversight. Like the finance director said, and I probably said it, we cut everything we could, and we probably cut a little bit too much at some places.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification there.
Does anyone else have any discussion on this amendment? And this doesn't foreclose us from changing anything after, bear in mind, so more than welcome to do amendments post this one. But any further discussion on this amendment? All right, seeing none, clerk will please call the roll.
Mr. Sinapi?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuise?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. Muno?
Yes.
Mr. Napa?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
9 yes to amend.
All right, so this now stands before us as amended. So does anyone, any lights? Anyone want to do anything? No further amendments? Which is fine.
I thought you were talking about them.
Oh, no, I know they're done. So, Councilman Muto, you lit up?
Okay. Thank you. So before I get into my proposed amendments, I just want to talk about or make a few statements. I'm going to be proposing $1,056,000.
Councilman Lattiser, I apologize. The solicitor scolded me. We have to get a motion on the proposed item as amended first, and then we can start discussion on it. I apologize. That's my fault.
But I'm not making amendments right now. This is like a prelude to my amendments.
This is so you can make the statements you're trying to make. We need to get a motion, just like before we need to have for discussion, and then we can start saying whatever we want to say. So does anyone have a motion as amended? Councilman Foley? All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Councilman Muto, all right, then.
Okay.
No. You just told me I had to. That's why I did the thing.
There's two different things at play here. If we're doing amendments, let's do amendments and keep it orderly. Otherwise, comments would be charged against your final thoughts of the item altogether.
I misinterpreted the nature of the scolding. My apologies.
Okay, so you want us to start off with our amendments?
If there are
We'll
other amendments,
go
that'd
through each amendment, vote on each amendment as we present them. And then when we're done with our amendments, we would have an opportunity to speak to why we proposed those amendments.
You gave the affirmative nod.
But my suggestion for the orderliness of this is to address one amendment at a time, vote those amendments as we go along, and at the conclusion of no further amendments, if folks have other comments to be made, to conclude at that point in the evening. So to take amendments one at a time. Offer an amendment, second, discussion, action, inaction, whatever it may be.
All right, that changes things around a bit for me. But I'll start off with
Councilman Lattiser, so if you want, you can talk about the overall bill. It's just going to count towards your time, he's saying.
I'm sorry?
It'll count towards your time towards the thing as a whole.
Under the rules, the amendments are all going to be treated as a separate issue before us, so you'll have time to speak on each of those components. If there's no amendment pending before us, we're going to be charging under the rules to people's time on the overall item. So it's your pleasure, but
so when we make or suggest an amendment, that will also, if I'm going to take money out of a particular line item, I've got to also say where I want that money to go, right?
the suggestion would be to present an amendment in its total form. So if it is increasing certain expenses or decreasing them together in a package that balances and thus would have no levy impact, that would be one suggestion, to get them all aired together, get it moved and seconded, and then discuss that package of amendments, have a vote on it, and proceed if there's other amendments.
All right, we'll start down the list and you can adjust as we go along. My first amendment is an MIS, and it is item 25303. It is for a telephone, and I propose to reduce that amount by $20,000.
Could I just ask that you just give us the page number that you're, before you, I know it's MIS, but just.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think that's page 15, I believe.
We'll have to go through it because I didn't write the page numbers down.
Councilman Lattiser, this is a point of clarification. Am I correct in that you want to amend the one that they requested to amend, and then we amend it already to 100,000? You want to remove additional money?
So the item now stands before us by adoption of the prior amendment. The original $179,000 was reduced by $79,000, and that account now stands as a proposed $100,000 item.
Okay, I'll withdraw that one. Next item is animal shelter. It is on page 18, item number 28-222, natural gas. I'm proposed to reduce that by $2,000.
Do you want to pair that with where you want to put it, or do you want to?
Sorry?
Do you want to pair that with where you want to put the money, or no? It's up to you. It's your amendment.
Well, at this point, because of discussion we've had earlier, I was going to be moving some of my deductions to a line item for seniors and veterans exemptions. But as of yesterday, I was informed that that can't happen unless or until we go to the General Assembly to be able to get those approvals done. So at this point, and I'll bring this full circle when this is over and we have our comment time. At this point, all of my adjustments will be going to reduce the drawdown from the fund balance.
All right, so is there a second for the motion so we can actually discuss it? Seconded by Councilman Ricks.
So Councilman Lattiser is moving an amendment that has two pieces. It is a reduction to 28,222 in the amount of $2,000, which would leave 19,928. And this would be shifting that $2,000 to offset the fund balance drawdown 100-03690, which was previously just increased by 80,000 to 33,54725, and so we'd be shifting $2,000 off of that. Councilman?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Foley?
Point of information through the chair to Councilman Lattiser. Based on what you just said, so all the reductions that you're going to list now, you want to be transferred to line item to lessen the drawdown. Is that
That's correct. Yes, which will lessen the tax increase. Well, it's going to lessen what we're drawing down on the rainy day account anyways.
Councilman, is it fair to say, if I had to guess, based on that line item, that the others that you plan on doing all share a theme, such as potentially all natural gas?
There's a good portion of them that will have natural gas, electric, gasoline, telephone. There's some other items in salaries, in water department. So there's numerous items.
So my suggestion, and as long as the solicitor doesn't say it's impossible, would be to, if we can, group at least by theme at a minimum, where we can do, hey, here's all the natural gas reductions I want to do. That way you can provide your overall rationale. Your argument will have more oomph too. Not to stack the deck, but it'll help make it make more sense as opposed to seemingly like doing it piecemeal.
Okay, it's just going to take longer to get through this, but we can do it that way. It's not the way I have it down here. So is it your intent to vote on each item individually or do them all at once?
Honestly, it's up to you. I'm just trying to help you get what you're going for.
Okay.
Because from where I'm sitting, you stand to have more of a, let's say, negotiation leverage if you have all the natural gas together, as opposed to seemingly just taking a dollar here, a dollar there. Especially if you're doing it in a way that I'm guessing you're doing, which is like saying, hey, I'm doing a percentage from all these.
Okay, we'll go that route. Next item is natural gas. It is item 3222. And that is found on page 19. And I am looking to reduce that by 3,000.
$32,222. Page 19. All right. 32.
Councilman, what was the
Oh,
number?
so
What was
that's
the line
why.
item on that?
30.
I'm sorry?
What was the line item on that?
3222.
Yeah, that's why.
Natural gas.
I made that worse. That's my fault. He said it correctly. I did not.
$3,000. You just make that, Adam, just increase it.
Is now a good time for me to get my snacks? I feel like I won't miss anything.
You're not gonna miss anything.
As long as anybody wants us to block, 20 line, not even 50 words on a page.
The Wall Street Journal to produce it every day. How many acres of the rainforest that it uses up on a daily basis? It's like thousands of acres just to produce that one thing.
Really, it's Canadian
I'll
tree
link it
farms.
to New York Times.
You know, it's one thing when it's rainforest, but the reality is it's Canadian tree farms, and I'm okay with that.
You're okay with it. Listen, it's a natural
Canadian tree
resource.
farms. Yeah.
And paper, the newspaper not really needed.
No, it is sustainable. I mean, it can be done in an unsustainable way or a sustainable way.
A lot of what they're making now for that same type of paper is made from pulp. The excess waste.
Appreciate the patience of everyone. Councilman Lattiser is, if there's no objection, Councilman Lattiser would like to modify the amendment so that we tackle similar things in one comprehensive amendment. And that would be that there will be reductions to various accounts to be read, and that all of these reductions would be put to offset changes to the fund balance drawdown. And so, Councilman Lattiser, if you would please address all the accounts and the amounts that you would like those adjusted, we'll get a tally at the end for the total impact to the fund balance account.
Okay, so we'll start from the beginning. It'll be animal shelter. Excuse me, animal shelter. It's line item 28222, natural gas, a reduction of 2,000. Animal shelter code 28224, electric, 1,000. Police, item 302220, gasoline, 20,000, reduction of 20,000. All of my items are reductions. 30222, natural gas, 3,000. 30224, electric, 7,000. 3303, telephone, 4,000. Sure.
Or repeat
Sorry.
the last one.
I'll slow down.
You're going
Sorry.
quick. Could you repeat the last one?
30-303, telephone,
And the
4,000.
Minus 4,000. Okay.
3340, service contracts, 40,000. Fire. Budget code 35-111, overtime, 300,000. Fire 35-220, gasoline, 1,500. Fire 35-221, diesel, 15,000. Fire 35-222, natural gas, 3,500. Fire 35-224, electric, 8,500. Parks and Recs, 45-303, telephone, 1,500. Library, 43-332, security and alarms, 4,200. Ice rink, 44.
Oh, sorry. There was a question of the last amount, $4,200.
Yes,
4200.
correct.
Thank you.
Ice rink, 44-101, salaries, 53,888. Ice rink, 44-304, water, 50,000. Ice rink, 44-305, sewer, 19,350.
Can I just ask you to slow down a little bit? We're trying to write this down as fast as possible.
I'm sure. Yeah, where would you like me to back up to, Chief? Sorry.
How about 43-332, $4,200. Start
Okay.
with the next one.
With,
Thank you.
with the library? Okay, library.
Yes.
43-332, security alarm, 4,200. Ice rink, 44-101, salaries, 53,888. Ice rink, 44-304, water, 50,000. Ice rink, 44-305, sewer, 19,350. Thayer Warburton, 41-224, electric, 100,000. DPW, 65-220, gasoline, 20,000. $65-221 diesel, 34,000. DPW, 66-224 electric, 10,000. And that completes those items. I do have on a separate item, which would be my reductions in capital.
Okay, if we want to try this amendment that is now read, for everyone's cross-checking, I think it's probably worth taking the account number and the amount, so we're all on the same page, Councilman. So what I have written down for you is for 28,222, a $2,000 reduction.
Correct.
For 28,224, $1,000 reduction.
Yes.
30,220, $20,000 reduction.
Yes.
30,222, a $3,000 deduction.
Yes.
30,224, a $7,000 reduction.
Yes.
30,303, a $4,000 reduction.
Yes.
30,340, $40,000 reduction.
Yes.
35,111, $300,000 reduction.
Yes.
35,220, $1,500 reduction.
15, right? Is that what you said?
1500?
Yes.
Thank you. 35,221, 15,000.
Yes. 15, 15.
15,000.
Yes.
35,222, 3500.
Yes.
35,224, 8500.
Yes.
45,303, 1500.
Yes.
43,332, 4200.
Yes.
44,101, a reduction of 53,888.
Yes.
44,304, 50,000, 50,000.
Yes.
44,305, 19,350.
Yes.
41,224, $100,000.
Yes.
65,220, $20,000.
Yes.
65,221, $34,000.
Yes.
66,224, $10,000.
Yes.
Okay, so in total, that would equate to a reduction of expenses and thus offsetting the fund drawdown balance of $698,438. So this item was previously amended to be increased by $80,000, which would be a $33,354,725. That would now become a reduction of that amount and leaving a new fund drawdown balance of $2,656,287. And appreciate if anybody else is keeping track.
Numbers matched.
If that's the case, any discussion on the amendment?
So do we need a second? Because the prior second was for a very different scope. You good for second? Perfect. All right. So, discussion.
Point of order, Council President. Is this going to be taken as one whole amendment? Or are these, can we pull some items out of there?
I mean, right now it's one whole amendment, but that doesn't mean the sponsor can't opt to say, hey.
What I would suggest is discuss the amendment in total and how you feel about it, of doing it all at once or not, can be amended or changed subsequently. But I think now we have an amendment that's more comprehensive in all the similar ways you can have discussion about what to do with this, and then we can decide from there as to take it in as one shot or to amend the amendment to deal with it in various pieces that may be of other interest. So the floor is all of yours to discuss the amendment and which approach you'd like to take.
Yeah, for what it's worth, my preference, and which shouldn't govern it, it's not even necessarily the right one, but my thought is that I would prefer, if I'm voting on any of these, it would be based on, like I was saying before, the theme, like here's all the gasoline proposed reductions, because chances are, unless I'm assuming incorrectly, they're for the same reason. Here's all the electricity themed reductions, or even if you just combine the utility ones, so it's not as much, but still general things, because I'm personally not comfortable voting on, in the same breath, salaries, overtime, and utilities. To me, it's a very different grouping of things, but if people want to do it that way, that's fine.
I'm flexible however the body wants to do it.
So Councilman Ricks?
Thank you. Pardon me. Thank you. First, I would tend to agree with the council president in terms of preferred groupings, but I think that this is productive for purposes of discussion. So I guess a couple of questions that I would be asked to the councilperson proposing the amendment through the council president. The first question being, unless I missed something, it looks like the one salary line item that's being cut here, proposed to be cut, would be 44-101 Apponaug Rink salaries. So I am curious about that, how that number was derived. I was looking in the personnel supplement, and it just wasn't immediately apparent to me what that particular cut would represent. If I may, through the council president.
So that was the line item in the ice rink, which was adding an additional person to the payroll for that ice rink, which just doesn't make any sense to me, considering what you have in the other two ice rinks.
I think I understand now. The calculation that I'm getting on that, unless I'm missing something here, looking at the personnel supplement, oh, actually, correction, I see what I am missing here. I was looking at the wrong rink in the personnel supplement, so that explains that difference right there. Okay. My other question through the chair, that is through the president, and by the way, I'm not necessarily taking a position on that one particular proposed cut. I would want to hear more information before making a decision as to whether I would support that particular cut or not. But my other question for the moment is on the various energy line items, gasoline, natural gas. I suppose start with a comment here that the way that I view that sort of thing is that we try to make the best approximation possible in these budgets. Energy prices are going to be very difficult to predict for the entirety of fiscal year 27 as a whole. Currently, I think that the trends are not so positive for us as consumers of energy. There's not just risk to increases in prices of gasoline and diesel due to the Strait of Hormuz and fallout from that, which we're only going to fully realize in a matter of numerous months, maybe 6 months or greater, even after the Strait of Hormuz is fully reopened due to the supply lines and the like. But yeah, so as a result of that, natural gas is going to be affected in price as well due to exports of LNG. And so when I was looking through the packet, seeing that, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like across the board, the way that the administration was trying to calculate that was take the price of natural gas actually expended in fiscal year 25, increase it by 20% for the fiscal year 27 request. Hard for me to predict whether that's going to be on the money, 10% too much, 10% too little, but I really can't criticize that approach. However, given that ultimately here, the budget is an approximation, and just because an energy cost may exceed what is in the stated budget, that doesn't mean that the meter gets turned off. It means that we simply have to, as a city, pull more from the fund balance, the rainy day fund. And likewise, if it's overestimated in the budget, turns out it's not so expensive, well, that's money that winds up going back into the fund balance. So changes to the cost of energy would be something that I'd be comfortable with an amendment if it's a matter of changing what we're doing as a city, or if for some reason we don't think that the estimate that the administration has in that particular area is accurate for that particular item. Like, for instance, if there were fewer buildings next year than the last year, something of that nature, or if it were a matter of sending a message of we really have to turn down the thermostat. But generally speaking, I would tend to be inclined to keep at those energy levels projected in the budget, because they seem to be, from a layperson's perspective such as mine, from my experience on the council, looking at these budgets for not quite as many years as Councilman Lattiser, with all due respect, of course. But it's hard for me to disagree with the plus 20% on natural gas relative to fiscal year 25. So that's my comment, and I suppose there's a question in there somewhere through the council president. Thank you.
Was that ultimately a question for Councilman Lattiser?
Yes, so just kind of a general question on Councilman Lattiser's thoughts on the purpose of a reduction in the energy line items such as natural gas, whether it's a matter of we as a city council thinking that those expenditures won't be quite that high, or if it's more of a matter of sending a message on more of a policy ground of belt tightening. That's the gist of the question. Thank you.
So my feeling with all of these items, the natural gas, the electricity, the fuel items, as you look at some of the previous numbers and even the projections for this year, I just feel that those numbers are all inflated. And I tried to apply a balance to them in terms of reduction. Some of these items, as you saw in the administration's reduction in one of their own items, was even more than what I was going to propose, as you saw. So I think, as I had said last year in the budget, with respect to the electricity and the gasoline, we have not heard testimony that the meters are all the meters. we've heard that these numbers are guesstimates, they're approximate. And I think I disagree with those estimates. And I think my adjustments on them are, while they're small, I think they're necessary. But that's all up to you individually to form your own conclusions with that. But certainly that has shown to be a number that has increased dramatically.
So you're all set for now, Councilman Ricks? All right. I have a question for admin. And it's for everybody's benefit. So if whatever the line item might be, whether it be gasoline, electric, overtime, we use simple numbers, $1,000 is budgeted, and as the year goes on, $2,000 ends up being necessary, what happens? Where does that money come from?
That's called the budget deficit. We're spending more than is budgeted. It doesn't come out of the rainy day fund. We can't do that, except for an emergency appropriation by an act of the council. We would just run a deficit. Not a good way to run the city.
Yeah.
Is it time for me to comment further, or Councilman go first? Your pleasure.
I can barely hear you because of the acoustics of the room. I'm sorry.
I just think you're hard of hearing. Can I comment further, or do you want to wait for the councilman?
Oh, of course, you're up there anyway.
All right. Well, it's hard to know where to start. I mean, I'm opposed to all of these items. We've budgeted the electricity, the fuel, gas as best we can. They're all assumptions. We don't know where the costs are going to go. We can't just simply park fire trucks because we don't have any more diesel. We can't work by candlelight. As far as the rink out here, it's not based off of Thayer's, because this rink we sell tickets, where at Thayer's we don't. Our concession's almost done, so we're gonna need someone to man that. It can't be run with 2 people. Overtime, I don't want to cut that, because you never know what's going to happen. We might have 4 hurricanes this year. Is there a little bit of, it's not padding, we have enough money. If not used, it returns to the general fund. It doesn't go anywhere. It's not going to make us use less energy. So against all of these amendments, and I urge everyone to vote no, and if they're not, I have to veto them.
All right, Councilman Napa.
Thank you, Council President. I think agree with your sentiment, and Councilman Ricks, that there's too many different types of amendments packed into one thing to have an intelligent conversation and be able to vote up or down on this. This became the American Health Care Act amendment. There's too many things packed in the back of it. I think parsing it out as electric, gas, reductions in salary, however the councilman prefers, but it doesn't make sense to vote on it all and one and all down. For those reasons, I would vote no on this particular amendment, because it's too much packed in. Furthermore, I think some of these items are necessary for the departments to function. So I think if we can look at them in categories, so that the categories, we're not talking about apples and oranges and peaches all in one basket, categories might make more sense. At this time, it's hard to wrap my head around, but I think many of these items I would be opposed to. But generally, as a whole, I'm opposed because it's too many different things packed into one.
Councilman Gebhardt.
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to go back through a little bit of budget history on how this administration and the council before this have budgeted and what has occurred thereafter. So obviously no one likes a structural deficit, and no one likes relying on a drawdown on the fund balance. But as the mayor just said, we don't want to set ourselves up to run a deficit. Electricity, gasoline, natural gas are driven by usage and by the cost. Neither of those can be controlled, perhaps usage, but there's nothing in this budget that meaningfully drives down usage, right? Some of you may know that's the business that I'm driving down utility usage, but there's nothing in here funding, for an investment to do that. And even if they were, that doesn't materialize for several years. In fiscal 22, the budget contained a $5.8 million drawdown. The actual drawdown in 22 was 0. In 24, $7 million drawdown. The actual drawdown was 0. And that pattern repeats because we plan for the worst and we anticipate the best. So I would caution us. Furthermore, I think there's an illogical piece to this amendment being that returning the money to the drawdown really has no net benefit whatsoever. If the amendment was to reduce all these things and lower the tax increase, I would say at least it makes a little bit of sense. But to just return it to the rainy day fund or to the fund balance, that's where it's going to go anyways if things work out to the positive. So I don't think by having a reasonable budget in any of these categories means we're going to go light barrels of gasoline on fire outside, right? If we don't use the gasoline, the money goes back to the fund balance. If we don't use the electricity, the money goes back to the fund balance. So I would urge that we, if other folks have other amendments, we should entertain them. But what I think we have here is a budget that does a good job of dealing with a difficult fiscal year with, helping the schools, fully funding what they're asking for in their budget request, in offloading from the schools their required contribution to the deficit reduction plan, which is additive over and above fully funding what their ask is. We're making investments in other areas, but trying to keep the tax increase below maximum, trying to keep the fund balance as solid as possible. And I think what we have here is a good budget. And I think we should vote yes on it. And I think we should do that without further ado. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I want to say I support what the efforts are by Councilman Lattiser, but I find myself in a very uncomfortable position, and I agree with Councilman Gephardt. And the reason is I also have experience in efficiency management, and without the programs to draw down and save consumption and energy, personnel management, anything like that, all we're doing is putting a stake in the ground and not having programs. If we had programs attached to these, energy efficiency programs, workforce management programs, anything like that, then we can make the counter here, and it really goes to the net effect of these cuts will be going to reduce the rainy day. I should say increase the rainy day fund. I'm not thrilled about the budget. I don't, if anyone knows me, I am extremely tight. I don't like to spend money. You can ask my wife. She sees a quarterly spreadsheet just on household, and it's not a joke. I do not like to spend money. However, we do need other ways of managing potential savings. I just don't think this is the way to do it. However, I must emphasize, I do appreciate the effort of looking at different line items, calling out ways to build efficiencies within our city. This is a personal struggle for me, but I will reserve my time and listen to more debate. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Just as a bit of my own information that I realized over the last couple of weeks, but I appreciate Councilman Lattiser's concerns about cutting spending, and I know some areas I agree with the spending. One area would be with salaries. I just want to say two. I could say something right now that we could save $1.2 million that was cut from the schools, but I will probably get thrown out of Warwick if I do say it. So I'm not going to say that. However, as the mayor just stated, even if we do approve these amendments, okay, he's just going to veto them, okay? So let's stop wasting time and let's just get on with this, because even if we do approve all the amendments, which Councilman Lattiser has some good ones, if we approve it, he's going to veto it. So I don't think we should waste any more time on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. A question for the administration. I do see, and this is relevant to Councilman Lattiser's amendment, one additional person being added to the Apponaug rink, but I also see that Thayer Arena and McDermott Pool are each down 1/2 of a person. So I'm interested in if there's an intersection there of, basically resource sharing between those three facilities, or are those effectively two half cuts for one person total and one new additional person? Is that all directly linked, or is that two separate things? Thank you.
It's two separate things, Councilman. They're not related.
Okay. And in that case, there were looking at the personnel supplement for the Apponaug rink, I see that there were last fiscal year, the current fiscal year, it was pardon me, just making sure I'm on the correct page here. Yes, at looking at the current personnel supplement, page 43, Apponaug rink, what's being proposed is keeping the one event center manager, keeping the 8 part-time guards and attendants, and increasing from 2 to 3 the building maintenance persons. So what would be the impact if we were to stay at 2 building maintenance persons instead of going to 3 as proposed?
We never really had to. When we set forth a budget, it wasn't operating yet. And as we were setting up, quickly became apparent we couldn't cover shifts, vacations, things like that if we had to. That's when we moved to 3.
Okay, so functionally...
And as I said, now that we're hitting the summer season, it's getting even worse because we're having a concession there, which we didn't have over the winter. It took us a long time to build it with state regulations and all that. So one of those people are going to be dedicated to that. So it'll be even harder. And at times we'll only have two people. If someone calls in sick or someone goes on vacation, it'll be difficult then. We wouldn't be able to do it. We wouldn't be able to operate with one.
I see. So on paper, last year's budget, it was 2, but functionally this time period that it's actually been open on the ground, it's effectively been 3.
Exactly. We were just spitballing in the beginning. Then when we hired Tom Rourke as the manager and he started doing the scheduling, he said 2 is not going to work.
Okay, so that does make some sense to me that, it looks like an increase on paper, but the reality is that it's really not. Okay.
Right. It's just we were taking the first steps and we just didn't know what we were doing with that yet.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Councilman, if you end up speaking again, you got about a minute, no, a little less than a minute left. Councilman Napa.
Thank you, Council President. Just a point of information on police department service contracts. This was something that drew my attention because it was a substantial increase. So I had the conversation with administration of the PD prior to our budget hearings. No one had questioned that during the budget hearing, so I didn't bring this up. But the reason for the substantial increase, similar to the substantial increase that they had last year, was because of increased costs on the service contracts for the items and technologies and things that they have in their possession. The largest reason for this size of an increase this year, from what I understand from the chief, is that Axon, the only provider for the tasers, is increasing their service contract costs from $42,000 to $159,000 per year, about $117,000. If we don't have this line item built in the way it is, our police department will no longer be able to carry and use their tasers. So just as a point of information relative to that line item, because that did stick out to me as well. It's a substantial increase, but I think that is one that we cannot get around.
Councilman Muto.
Thank you, Mr. President. Part of our discussion triggered another thought. Well, when we're looking at some of the utility expenses and comparing them across the departments, we also did an analysis of a similar comparison with the schools. And the gap between what the schools put in their budget for utilities is far below what the proportional increase is for the city. So we have one of two things, or three things. One is the city side is covering their expenses with the utilities, possibly with a cushion, or the schools will be running, they're either on the budget, or they are going to run a deficit on the utilities. And these are $500,000 swings just in utilities with the schools. So my question to the council, it's probably more rhetorical, is that from Tuesday night's presentation, I heard 3 potential challenges with the schools meeting the budget that they spoke about. One of them is the transportation cost. We're out of whack. The budget commission was lower than actual. 2, healthcare growth was lower than actual in the budget commission. And the third one was the increase in the special education, special needs. It's higher. Actuals were higher than what was in the budget commission. So my concern is, even though we mentioned, and the school department and school administration mentioned, this is the budget, and I believe the city, did a good thing by not having them pay back at this time, just to solve some issues. I do have a concern that what we're talking on the city side, where we have money to budget, it is what it is. Are we looking close enough and seeing what some of the drivers are and what's our game plan? if the schools go over budget, because they don't have a rainy day fund. So how are we as a council going to do that? And that's more of a rhetorical question, unless anyone has some answers. Those are the things that I was unfortunately up last night late trying to figure out.
Councilman Gephardt.
Just my recollection from the electric discussions on the city side, addressing one of the scenarios that you brought up, Councilman Muto, is the expiration of the net metering credits is a big chunk of the increase, right? So we had essentially I see nodding heads over there. So we had essentially pre-purchased essentially a buy down, a discount on our electricity through the purchase of a bank of net metering credits, which are now elapsed. And so the cost of our electricity is not going up in the same, the school department did not have the same net metering credits offsetting their last year's bills. So our last year's bills were, substantially lower based on our usage of those net metering credits, which no longer exist. So we kind of got the double whammy of increasing in electrical costs and the expiration of our net metering credits. I did contact the school department and ask if they had any net metering credits laying around, because I thought that maybe there was an exchange that could be made there to shore them up, but they have no such credits. So anyways, hopefully that helps. So I think that's part of it. So, their increase formula, may be closer to accurate. It's just ours looks substantially higher because of the expiration of those credits. Thank you.
If there's no objection from the council, Councilman Lattiser would like to adjust the amendment that is before us. It makes no changes to all of the reductions discussed, but it removes the placement of these reductions into the rainy day fund, or the fund balance drawdown account. The implications of this is the $698,438 of savings would be left without placement somewhere in an effort to have that balance be a reduction to the tax levy.
Correct.
Is there any objection to the councilman's amending his motion that's pending? Can I ask a question?
Is it appropriate to ask the administration if that will make any difference to what was stated about the amendment as a whole?
Once we clear the no objection thing, yeah, absolutely an appropriate question. So seeing no objection, so modified. So now.
Okay, so the amendment now stands before us as the 21 account being reduced in the amounts discussed, that total $698,438. And if this amendment were to pass, those accounts would be adjusted as read into the record, and the savings would be to reduce the tax increase to the levy. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Mr. President.
Councilman Lattiser.
If I may, after having discussion with the solicitor and hearing comments from my colleagues on the council, I would still want this motion moved as one item. My intent is to reduce this budget on these items by approximately $700,000. It doesn't impress me when at the end of the fiscal year, whether it be the city side or the school department side, when someone comes back and says, hey, good news, we have $3 million left in the budget. And on our side, that's going to go back into the rainy day account, as I refer to it. That doesn't excite me, because what it says to me is we just overtaxed the taxpayers $3 million. Instead of squeezing every nickel and dime that we can right now while we're right here and save those taxpayer dollars, that impresses me. To say that, or at least in my mind, to look on this and say, okay, we've got a $3 million savings, and essentially what we've done is we've overtaxed the taxpayers. So with that said, I feel that all my proposed amendments are appropriate, and I would move favorable action on them. Thank you.
In my college days at Providence College, I don't know if I was fortunate or unfortunate to have to take a 3-credit course in logic. And one of the things you learn right off the bat in logic is if your premise is wrong, it doesn't matter where you end up. Because if your premise is wrong, your conclusion is wrong. The premise is that we're hearing for these proposed amendments is that the administration and the department heads did not try to cut the budget, to trim the budget, to keep the budget as tight as they could, that they frivolously buffered in things so that at the end of the year, oh, look, we have a $3 million surplus. The premise is wrong. The premise I'm working off of is the administration and the department heads, who I talk to regularly, have sat down with sharpened pencils and tried to find every nickel and penny of savings they could. And they came up with this budget. We spent, if I did my math right, 6 hours Monday night questioning them at length. We spent another 6 hours Tuesday night questioning them at length. And now here we are, just like we've done for the last year and a half, at the 11th hour, trying to solve a problem that isn't there. They did their job. Our job is now, after 12 hours of questioning, to decide whether or not this budget should be passed. And the premise is that they did their job to the best of their ability and presented to us a lean, tight budget. That's why I will A, vote against the amendment, and B, vote for the budget. Thank you.
Councilman Gebhardt?
I think he said it all.
All right. For the administration, so for the electricity, I know I spoke at length to you all about this to help understand. Can you explain for the council the reason why the electricity is seemingly, it's not a steady percentage increase across all departments, it's seemingly haphazard, although now that I have context, I know it's not, but so that everyone else has it.
I'm going to let the finance.
Don't let her stand her back.
Yeah.
We give her the mic.
Just sit. Sit. Oh, okay.
I'm not a dog. Jeez.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if we're concerned.
I know. That's fine. Sorry, I have a slip disc. That's why I'm wincing when I get up and down. Electricity is a really hard thing to pin down because we've had these net metering credits. As I explained earlier in the week, we're out of the net metering credits. At one point, you'll see in our financial statements say we're over $1 million. I've spent the past 2 years using those credits to spend down all of our other accounts. But unfortunately, with the increasing costs of delivery charges, we're going to have to start paying Rhode Island Energy and Captona. So Aaron, our analyst over there, did a whole very nerdy study working on kilowatt usage and the ongoing cost to come up with these numbers. And they honestly are our best guess at what they will be. I mean, the next year might be a bit of a learning lesson. It could be over, it could be under, but it was really the best that we could estimate to be.
And can you help us understand the estimates that went into gasoline and natural gas, please?
So natural gas and gasoline, I put in a straight percentage based on the 25 numbers because those are final. Our audit's not out yet, but I know those numbers won't change. 26, you know that these bills have been coming in so high. Hopefully we won't sustain that. And we haven't gotten all of those bills in yet. So I was building it on the 25. I put in 20% across the board as an increase, really just as where I'm seeing the bills coming in now that are in. So I tried to put a budget in for all the utilities that seemed reasonable.
Councilman DeLuise? Of course. Yeah, so what I was going to say on my end is that there's as I alluded to rather somewhat directly before, there's at least a few in here that make me uncomfortable, especially now when we have the background information regarding the service contracts, the salaries, and the utilities. While I know it's the best estimate and it could go either way, I'm somewhat torn because yes, things around the world might get better and therefore those costs come down. They might not, it might get worse because as of now, that's what keeps happening. Hopefully it doesn't, but last I heard, the projected fallout for even if things resolved like tomorrow would be months and months and months of dealing with the consequences still. And while we always have the fund balance, if we run a deficit after rightfully being concerned and taking action when the school department did, it would be incredibly hypocritical, to put it mildly. So on the one hand, I'd love to be able to put the tax increase down lower. At the same time, we'd be potentially risking the same thing that we insist is avoided at all costs on the other end. And already, from what I'm seeing, Cranston, this is just based on looking online, feel free to fact check it because I might be wrong. Cranston's looking at a 4.65 tax increase, East Greenwich 6.88, and West Warwick 4.15. We're doing pretty well by comparison as proposed tonight. Doesn't mean it's going to be lower. And doesn't mean, I'm sure everyone would actually prefer it be lower, frankly. But under the circumstances, we're in a tough spot. Councilman DeLuise, you want me to come back to you or you want me to go to Councilman Foley?
Just point of information, and I'm sure everybody's done all their math. So just want to talk about the tax increase for a minute. So say we have a 4% tax increase, which is a little bit less we're proposing. If your property taxes are $5,000 a year, which I'm sure a lot of people are less than that, I'm sure a lot of people are more than that. So just based on the 5,000, okay, a 4% increase comes out to about $200 a year, which equates to about 54 cents a day, okay? So just in the last 4 or 5 months, I used to pay about $40 a week to fill up my car. Now I'm paying about 90. So 54 cents a day times 7 days, it's a little more than $3 a week. So I don't know why people get up in arms when we're trying to make the city run and pay for all the services when you're looking at 54 cents a day. So that's all I have.
Councilman Foley?
Seeing no new lights, I call the question.
All right. Clerk will please call the roll on the amendment as proposed. It's a motion for favorable action, correct? Okay. Are we ready?
Mr. Sinapi?
No.
Mr. DeLuise?
No.
Mr. Foley?
No.
Mr. Gephardt?
No.
Mr. Kirby?
No.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. Muto?
No.
Mr. Napa?
No.
Mr. Ricks?
No.
1-8 motion fails.
So back to you, Councilman Lattiser.
Okay, now I'm going to make amendments on capital budget, and this will also reflect with no offset. So police, vehicle fleet, a reduction of 550,000. Fire, 1 pumper truck, 896,939. DPW, 1 6-wheel dump truck, 60,000. And also a Chevy dump truck for 50,000. And the total amount is 1,556,939, which that would have to get translated into what the actual lease purchase reduction would be, which I think is somewhere around 340,000 or so.
Second for discussion.
Given that it's your amendment, Councilman, do you want to go first or no? You don't have to.
Sure. So, as you know, over the last several years, Mayor Picozzi has put forth a lot of COVID money into updating the fleet. We have consistently added to the fleet, both in the police department, the fire department, the water department, DPW, with all new vehicles. So when does it become a discussion for how you're going to reduce these taxes? To some people, maybe we're talking about a few $100s a year, but to a lot of people, that's a lot of money. In addition to the $300 or $400 or $200 that these taxes are going up, those same people, particularly the seniors, those same people have to pay the same $70, $80 a week to fill up their gas tank. They still have to pay the crazy grocery bills and all of the other expenses that go along. So when do they get a break? Sure, we love to have all shiny and brand new and pretty vehicles. And I think this administration and this council has certainly complied with that. It has certainly increased the fleet standing to a significant degree. What I'm asking is for a break to help out those taxpayers that are struggling every day And to them, $500, $400, it's a lot of money. By the way, when we talk $200 or $300 or $400, we're talking net dollars. You have to earn more than $300 or $400 to take home $300 or $400. And I'm not looking to create this issue where, oh my God, our fleet's falling apart. Well, it shouldn't be falling apart because there's a lot of new vehicles. This year alone, I think we've received 2 or 3 new vehicles in the fire department. We've approved numerous vehicles for the police department just in the past year. Their fleet is fairly new. So I don't expect these vehicles to be breaking down and to be out of service. So this is why I've proposed these reductions in the capital budget. And I put that before you as a motion to reduce. Thank you.
Councilman, a question for your 2 of them, the 2 DPW ones. The Chevy dump truck, did you mean 55,000?
Mr. President, so to answer your question on the Chevy dump truck, I understand what you're saying. Yes, that's correct. It would have been 55,000. My intent was to reduce by 1 vehicle. They're calling for 2. And on the 6-wheel dump truck, I rounded out the number to 60,000. I'm looking to take 1 of those vehicles away as well. And on the pumper, there is only 1. On the police vehicle fleet, it was stated the other night that that was for 14 vehicles at $1,100,000. And I was making the adjustment to reduce it down to 7 vehicles for this year. And that's where I came up with the 550,000.
All right, so the DPW, the dump truck would be the one that's from 3 to 2 would be approximately $67,000 reduction. It's actually 66.6, but rounding up to 67. All right, there we go. So that would be 67 for the DPW dump truck.
A new total, if someone wants to double check it, of $1,568,939.
Councilman, I think if you make the DPW the 6-wheel dump, reducing the current 200,000 by 66,666 would ensure that there is enough cash.
All right, fine.
To pay for
Go
that.
ahead. Yeah, okay.
And then if you take those 4 items that you just read into the record, the total savings would be $1,568,605. There being no corresponding offset, this would be to reduce the tax levy.
Correct. Thank you.
And so that's the amendment by Councilman Lett, seconded by Councilman Rex. Back to discussion.
Thank you. So off the bat, I want to say that I want to thank Councilman Lattiser for taking a good hard look at the capital budget as well. I do agree with his point that the city has bought many new vehicles in the last several years, last 5 years at least, especially using the ARPA funds from the federal government. So it's true that we were in a very bad position with deferred maintenance, deferred replacement on a lot of these types of vehicles a number of years ago, but we've replaced an awful lot of them. So I'm not entirely convinced that we're in the same bad position that we were about 5 years ago. And as I take a look at the plans for the capital budget out into the future, some make more sense to me than others. For instance, the medical rescue, the ambulance, if they have a life cycle of about 5 years, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe we used to have 4, but now we have 5. So buying a new one every year, well, if those assumptions are correct, then the math checks out. But if the pumper trucks have a life expectancy of 15 to 18 years, as stated in the capital budget, estimated life expectancy, we've bought a number of them recently. Well, I see that the capital budget is having us on track to buy a total of 5 in the next 6 years, as well as buying 2 ladder trucks over the next 6 years as well. So that's something that I would need more information on to make a decision, but it certainly seems like something to look at. Now, with all of that said, I'm not in the support of this amendment as it's currently drafted, because the intent would be to take those funds and reduce the tax rate, whereas there's, as I see it, a lot of optimism in some respects with the budget as presented, in order to only, and I'll use that with air quotes, only $3.3 million fund balance drawdown. For instance, while I want to be optimistic too about the prompt sale of city properties and those funds being realized within fiscal year 27, we can't necessarily predict that $3 million in revenue. So with the risks to the city's bond rating, and with the next coming year's budgets looking possibly as difficult, if not even more difficult than this year's, I don't think that it would be responsible for us to try to reduce the tax rate lower than what is proposed by the mayor's budget. Instead, my focus would be tightening the belt in order to try to reduce the deficit, and making sure that we're still making full contributions to the long-term obligations and contractual obligations that we have in that regard. More generally, I think that the city, and this is something that Councilman Lattiser has been very vocal on, and I find myself more and more persuaded that we have to look at a lot of different structural changes potentially. Obviously, I'm not getting into those tonight because that's not on the agenda. There's nothing that we can do about some of those that I'm thinking of here tonight, but some things that can be done in the future so that we don't wind up in this same kind of position 1 year after the next come the budget hearings. So that's my thoughts and comments on that for now, and I would be interested in hearing from the administration as to what we can do with the capital budget and these vehicles so that we're getting the the real life expectancy out of these vehicles and seeing if we can free up a little bit more capital in the short term while not putting ourselves in a terrible position in the long term either. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Council President. Just a point of information, reducing line items in the capital budget that are reserved for lease purchase will have zero effect on the budget that's proposed before us, because the line item for lease purchase that we have proposed before us today is to pay the debt service on the vehicles we've already purchased. So you could make the lease purchase items in the capital budget zero. That has no effect on those line items in the budget. Admittedly, I didn't have any comprehension to any of those things and how that functioned. So I sat down with the finance department and got an education as to how lease purchase actually works. Not afraid to admit that I don't know when I don't know something. I didn't know that. So that's something that I learned. So effectuating change in the capital budget here is not going to have any effect on the tax rate, the levy, any of it. What is furthermore, I think we're still in a position where on occasion we're renting fire trucks from other districts and we have to pay for those rentals, if that's correct, Mr. Mayor?
We actually don't pay for them because we do it mutually, but if they break down in our possession, we have to pay to fix it. We've blown engines. I mean, we borrow backup equipment. We did purchase 4 new fire trucks. We have 6 to go, and a lot of them aren't in good shape. This is a replacement program because this was done before, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it got us to the point we were 5 years ago. We did spend a lot of ARPA money. We had to, but we're nowhere near where we should be in the fleet. We're not buying bright and shiny things. You go down the DPW yard and look around, you'll be scandalized that the trucks have duct tape covering up the body rot. We're not nearly where we should be. And this lease purchase is just trying to keep up with what we have now. I mean, we bought a lot of garbage trucks, but some of them are already getting old. Some of them are 2020s. Some of them we're still using 2014s and 2016s. The strategy that the council took back then, it made the city a nightmare. We couldn't provide services, and there was no way out of it. We wouldn't be out of it if it wasn't for the ARPA money. We overwhelmed our mechanics. We had to forego all preventative maintenance on other vehicles because they were just busy trying to get things on the road. It cost us a fortune in parts. Previous administration bought a used ladder truck. It was a great deal. Immediately cost us $50,000 to put an engine transmission in it. And then the apparatus part broke. We're nowhere near where we should be, and we're going to rapidly go right back to where we were if we don't start replacing the vehicles. And as you said, the capital budget's it's a supporting document. It's already in the budget in another way. It's not going to lower anyone's taxes. It's not going to help the fund balance. All it's going to do is hurt our future.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
And I think furthermore, most of us, I believe, took independent tours of the police yard last year, and they did an excellent job of showing us around, showing us exactly what vehicles we were replacing, not frontline vehicles, what their recycling program looks like, what their PM program looks like, how those vehicles end up filtering down through the detail programs, and at times there was no vehicles to put on the road that are earning $40 to $45 an hour as a detail vehicle. So my understanding from all the time that we spent outside of these chambers researching that last year when vehicles came before us was that the vehicles were approving for purchase or theoretically approving through a capital budget until it gets to the council floor, and we'll have the same discussion in 5 months when the first lot of vehicles comes before us, is that those vehicles are intended to replace vehicles that were purchased 5 to 6 years ago that not only have mileage, actual ticker mileage on it, but also engine hours, which decreases the longevity of those vehicles. So 4 or 5 years doesn't seem like a lot, but when the wear and tear of constantly idling and being on relatively 24/7 a day, every day, 24 hours a day, all week long, all month long, all year long. Those vehicles get a lot of run and wear and tear. So I know that it seems like a lot, but from the education that I got from the police department last year, their recycling program, the replacement program that's in place seems to this council person at least to make sense. And like the mayor said, we need to keep our fleet in a position where when our police department, fire department has to respond to an emergency, they can get there. And we need to be able to keep vehicles available on the back end for details and for when we need to hire a detail to cover this council chamber when we have a packed house and when we need to send a detail to Warwick Night Out. And we go there and we look presentable and we're not running our feet through the floor of the floorboards and looking like we have a car that came out of 1986. So I would not be supportive of any changes to the capital budget as it is presented to us.
If I could add to that, Councilman, is another step underneath the detail cars when it goes down to our tax assessors, collectors, building inspectors. And because nothing had been bought for a long time, we actually had to, for the first time, buy them brand new cars. And that's money we could have put back into the top instead of buying from the bottom. That was a waste. And I can tell you the DPW is in the same position you are. I mean, we have some very old trucks there. They break down frequently. It's just not a good idea to stop trying to replace your equipment because right now we're just trying to rotate it. We're not going to be able to actually add a bunch now. We're just going to have to have a slow pace. When one truck goes out of service, we can purchase another one. We're probably never going to get above where we are now, unless there's another pandemic, and I really don't want to see that.
So I think the points that have already been made about not allowing our fleet to completely deplete and you know, be continuous, this process of continuous maintenance versus these spikes. You know, we were very fortunate as a city to receive the American Rescue Act funds, because save that, we would be in a crisis when it comes to our vehicle and fleet replacement program, because in the past they had not been kept up with. You look at our neighboring cities and towns in their budgets. You look at Cranston, who is proposing a over max tax increase, looking at closing senior centers, removing services that residents rely on. I think our responsibility is to create a smooth budget, a smooth, predictable year-to-year budget. And we understand that there is inflation and the prices of things go up, and hopefully incomes follow that. But we do need to add money to the coffers each year to keep up with the programs and the services that we provide to the citizens. And by phasing it in, and Councilman Howe, when he was here, was a champion of this lease purchase program, because it gives us the ability to add vehicles to the fleet, pay them down over a short term, but to have a consistent influx of new vehicles. And I think that we are in a position, unlike those other cities and towns that are over max tax increases and decreasing services, where we are maintaining services. We're building 2 brand new schools. We're fully funding our school department. We're taking care of our fleet, and we are under the maximum in terms of tax increase, and we've got a conservative but tight budget. I think that's our job, and I think we're doing a good job at it. So that's all I have to say on this one. I think this is a no. We keep with the plan, we keep working the plan, and we will reap the benefits in the future. Thank you. Oh, and I would, being that I'm the last light on, I would call the question.
Can't hear you, Mr. President.
Mr. Sinapi?
No.
Mr. DeLuise? Mr. Foley?
No.
Mr. Gephardt? No. Mr. Kirby?
No.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. Muno?
No.
Mr. Napa?
Nope.
Mr. Ricks?
No.
1-8, motion fails.
All right, Councilman, do you have any other amendments? All right. Does anyone else have any amendments they'd like to propose? Would anyone like to make final comments then? Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. This is an incredibly difficult year for all stakeholders in the city, from the schools, and of course, the students, the parents, to the taxpayers. Looking at nearly a maximum tax increase here, as well as taxpayers, residents, however we characterize, it's the people of Warwick who they expect high quality services, deserve high quality services. It's going to be tough with belt tightening here to make sure that that all keeps up, but I don't see how, at least here tonight, without some other major changes, because in this budget, we are not changing contractual commitments. We are not making other types of structural changes. That's not on the agenda. So based on what we can do tonight, what's in front of us, unfortunately, I really don't see much here in terms of a responsible way to find very large sums of money that aren't going to either result in a lot of pain in the short term, or perhaps even worse, keep digging the city deeper and deeper into a hole that's going to cause us to have a lot less options and make far more painful decisions in the not too distant future. I wish it were otherwise. So, I would love to be able to take a look at this budget and come up with ways that we can put additional money into, say, the WELC program, or find money to reduce the proposed 3.86% tax increase, or increase senior exemptions, veteran exemptions. Perhaps even more importantly, I would say increase the circuit breaker exemptions and those income-based exemptions that are really most desperately needed. Those are targeted exemptions, but I simply don't see a responsible way within the confines that we have to work here tonight to get there. So I think that there is a lot of work that we can all be doing in the future when we have the power, when it is within our abilities to make those changes. Because if we are not doing that, this is going to keep happening. We are going to keep looking at a deepening structural deficit. We're not going to have choices anymore. It's not going to be a choice of maximum tax increase or severe cuts to services. It's going to be a choice of, okay, do we go above a maximum tax increase and severely cut services. So, as bad as this is, we are not yet at that point where it could be that much worse. But if we aren't doing the work, not just at the budget hearings, but throughout the year, then we are going to get it to that point, unfortunately. So, I'll reserve my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to make a general statement. I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that all the people in this room have compassion for students, anybody that's in education. But the fact of the matter is the administration spent over 3 months trying to determine a feasible budget that not going to make everybody happy. It's going to make some people more upset than others, but they put the time in. I just want to commend them on doing that, and they I don't know what the right word is, but tenacity, maybe fortitude, but the ability to come together, the minds, the administration, and I commend all the people in this room, all the councilmen, city clerk, everybody that works in this capacity for the time that they put in to research it, and all the people who live in the city, the time that they come out and voice their opinion. I think that we listen and we try to make the best educated guess or educated decisions that we can. So that's all I wanted to say, and I think everyone's done a very good job with this budget.
Councilman Mito.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to repeat the items that Councilman Ricks and Councilman DeLuise mentioned. They said things very well. I do want to emphasize and repeat what Councilman Ricks said, which was we did what we had to do with this budget. Going back to building the flexibility to not have to do a maximum tax increase, again, caused some pain, but we have a plan for accountability and paying back. Do I agree with everything in the budget? Absolutely not. Do I agree with how things are done in the city overall? Yes. But can we improve? Absolutely. One of the things that Councilman Ricks mentioned, which as a council, we should address the proportion of our population that is in need, the lower income, the seniors, the veterans, and the disabled, where we need to help, put programs in place, put a reevaluation of what those credits are. Yes, it does cost money. And this is where, over the next year, before the next budget, I'll challenge this council to make things easier for our citizens in need, number one. And number two, look at where we're not making a tough decision or a worse decision, where we are looking at how do we structure or restructure the items that are truly driving what our budget is driving, things that are above and beyond our control. we could go back to the 90s and early 2000s when healthcare was relatively cheap. Healthcare now is, relatively expensive. When we made those promises back then, it was all in good intentions. The promises we're making now with future benefits, I think, is a little bit risky. Is looking at the projections and growth. That's just a blanket statement. It is happening with the cities, with private companies. It is a national crisis, not just for the city council. As far as how other drivers, we do need to look at the human resource elements within the city and look at how we structure the personnel and deliver the services our city needs. I don't think anyone wants to have the lowest cost police, fire, or teachers out there. We need to invest in public safety, but we also need to be responsible at the same time. So with that said, this has not been easy, I think, for anybody. We need to do what we need to do for the city tonight, but we also need to do better tomorrow. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've heard all of the conversations and certainly respect everyone's opinion. And as we all know, there comes times when we have to agree to disagree. This 3.8% increase that we're talking about tonight, this is only the beginning. You're not even close to the end. This is just the beginning. The school department has already told us they're not going to pay the $1.1 million. They already told us the other evening, expect and you can depend on another deficit coming in next year. In addition to this 3.8% tax increase we have, keep in mind, there's a $3.2 million drawdown from the fund balance. There's the $1.1 million healthcare reserve that we're using. $3 million in unrealized real estate revenue that we didn't get last year. 1.9 million last year was anticipated. We didn't get it. 4.2 in traffic tickets, you only got half. And then the $1.1 million school deficit. That's $8.4 million of structural liability. We hear that the Budget Commission approved the city council or the city, or both, underfunded the schools. That's not how I saw it, and I was at the majority of those meetings. I believe what they proved was that the school department overspent their budget. There's a difference. Now, just to remind everyone, from 2020, when Mayor Solomon was sitting, to current day, the city has increased the revenue to the school department $23,567,754. Since Mayor Picozzi's been here, during his tenure, he has increased the funding to the school department, or provided funding to the school department in the amount of $17,582,280. So I would certainly disagree that the city has underfunded the schools. I've been listening to this for more than the 14 years that I've been on the council. And what always comes back is it's not enough. we need more. Well, whether people want to admit or not that we are at that proverbial cliff, that's up to you. I tend to look at the trends that have been going on for the last 20 years of spending and people refusing to tackle that major battle of reducing the major costs, which is in healthcare and legacy costs and pensions. This discussion will continue to take place until such time as another agency is going to stop making decisions for us. And you can disagree with that, but people disagreed with me in 2022 when I said, you'll never build them for $350. You'll never get it done. And here we are. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to focus the bulk of my kind of wrap-up comments on directly to folks who are watching this with a keen eye to the school department. As every member of this council knows, we've been asked repeatedly over the last few weeks. We've gotten dozens and dozens of emails from folks, as well as testimony throughout the budget hearings, to not make various cuts, certain cuts. And, you know, we're in a tricky situation because we don't actually make those cuts, right? The school department comes to us, they ask for a certain amount of money, they come up with a budget they can live with, and they ask us. And in this budget, we are fully funding the request. There's a lot of talk about the deficit reduction plan, which suggested a city appropriation well below the appropriation that we're adding. And that's even before you include the $1.1 million that's included in this year's budget to pay down past deficits. So whether you agree or disagree that in the past the schools were underfunded, I would say the city today is stepping up to make that right. Because we're not saying, hey, school, punitively, we don't believe you are underfunded, you pay back the money. No, we're actually paying, the city is sharing in the payback of that money, and we've appropriated $1.1 million in this year's budget, in addition to exactly what the school department asked for. But the budget is not the end of our work in being leaders and being partners with the school department. And there's a couple things that I heard in the extensive conversations I had with the superintendent and with the school committee chairman Galligan, and as well as was reiterated when they were here. There is some uncertainty in their budget. There's about $1.4 million in their budget that depends on some assumptions. There's a big assumption around $1 million, $950,000 around breakage, which means that certain teachers will retire at the top step and they'll be replaced by teachers at a much lower step. And then there's another almost close to $500,000 in assumption that a transportation audit that's currently ongoing will yield substantial savings in close to $500,000. Well, there's risk that neither of those two things come to fruition. And so I think that this is where we need to be good partners to the school department and support them. One such action that we can take is we were provided with a copy earlier this, or maybe a week or two ago, of a resolution or an ordinance passed in the 80s or sometime that mandated those 90 sick days and this whole TDI conversation. We heard the testimony on Tuesday evening from Executive Director Enos that a change to reestablish TDI and eliminate those sick days, which apparently, I don't know this directly, but it's been mentioned several times on this floor and on the floor of the school committee, that the teachers are somewhat in favor of this, would yield a savings of $1.5 to $2 million. Even if you discounted that 50% and said we didn't actually realize all of those, that gives another $1 million of potential savings back to the school department, which then goes to de-risk that $1.4 million that has some risk surrounding it. So I would urge this council, I don't know if do we have a docket session at the end of this? Yeah, so I think tonight we need to docket action to take a look at that, right? And Council President Sinapi already has it docketed, right? Or has a memo. Because that's another way we can help. Because the other thing that we hear from the school department is that what happens in their world is that they have to serve the students. And if a student comes in with a particular set of needs, we need to fulfill that. And it's not something we can say no to. It's just like gas. If the price of gas goes up, we still need to move the cars. We still need to pay for the gas. And if a student comes into the district and needs particular services, we need to provide those services. We can't say no. So we need to do whatever's in our power to help the school committee and the school district and the school department execute on their budget. So that the resolution or the ordinance around TDI, I think, is a big one. I also think we've heard Chairman Galligan talk multiple times about several bills that are up at the House related to unfunded mandates, related to certain types of transportation. To this date, this city council has not weighed in on any of those bills. And I think we need to have a meaningful discussion about which pieces of legislation up at the State House that would provide savings to the school department we want to weigh in on and use our combined influence to try to drive more savings to the school department. And I think those are ways that we can help, because while this has been a difficult year, here are some of the outcomes of having the Budget Commission. There are increased financial controls in the school department. One of the main findings of the Budget Commission is that there were insufficient controls, and that led to a lack of visibility around finances. Those have been improved. Chairman Galligan docketed a programmatic audit, a look at utilization, a look at what's happening within the school department that's going to produce some sort of output that hopefully they can use to better set up the district. So I think a lot of good has come out of this. I think it has essentially forced all of us to take a deep look at where we're spending, and in partnership, we've gotten to a better place. We need to continue to support them, but coming back to the budget as a whole was not an easy one. It took efforts by this council beforehand to provide flexibility to the administration, so that we could, use certain funds in a different way than we had originally intended. But the ultimate result is a tax increase below the maximum, a fund drawdown that is not anomalous to what we've seen in past years. And to one of the councilman's points, last year did include 4.2 million in traffic, in revenue from the traffic cameras, 1.9 million in real estate. Half of the traffic was realized, and the real estate wasn't realized at all. And yet, on a budgeted drawdown of $3.7 million approved in last year's budget, we're trending towards $2 million. So even with those two big assumptions in revenue not coming to fruition, we are still landing this plane well under the anticipated drawdown. So a budget is not a crystal ball. We try to do the best we can with the information we have at the time, and then we rely on the mayor and the administration to run a tight ship, and we support in that. And for that reason, I will support this budget. Thank you for indulging me.
So for the record, you've heard it stated a couple of times about this ordinance with the school department and workers' comp. It was not an ordinance, it was a resolution. It was signed by Mayor Flaherty on March 12th of 1985, and it was sponsored by Councilman Brophy. And it's a resolution, it's not an ordinance. But I am happy to hear conversations are starting to take place about this, the TDI and the 96 days, et cetera, because I've been talking about that and suggesting that from the beginning. The last contract with the teachers, the contract before that, I had the discussions with the union representatives in moving from 96 days to 10, and the school department paying the entire TDI, and projected approximately a $2 million savings. Well, that's been going on for years, but it's been denied. One says the other one doesn't want to do it. The other one says they don't want to do it. I've had conversations as well as recently as yesterday about that. And it does need to be done. Makes no sense to continue on the way it is. But I am happy to hear that people are starting to realize and understand that there is a significant savings in making those changes. Thank you.
All right, does anyone else have any comments? Councilman Napa.
Seeing no new lights, I move the question. Call the question. Move the
Alrighty.
question.
So just I'll do my little spiel at the end here. So tonight I'm going to document a few things for the schools. Councilman Gephardt already touched on some of it as far as efforts we can make. And some of it is speculative and kind of investigatory, and if we can do something with it, great. If it turns out we can't, we can say at least we tried, because we should at least do that much. But one will be about the state mandates, one will be about the workers' comp, and then one will be about supplemental funding, because you heard rather explicitly tonight, or I say tonight, a few nights ago, from the school department where they said, yes, we made the budget work, but there's significant risk, and they explained rather detailed why. I'm not a huge fan of the AP courses requirement getting changed. I'll say that much, especially considering it changed by 50%, which I think is somewhat egregious. And I don't want those students to just up and leave for another district as they have been wont to do if they find that they no longer can do AP courses. And while we can't control what the school department does with their policies and whatnot, we can certainly suggest or encourage that maybe upon reflection, they reduce that 50% increase to a lesser increase. Just a thought. Because as we heard from some council people the other night, and you can hear from me tonight, if it turns out the school department does need additional funds, because as they explained, some of the many reasons why that could happen, I'll be happy to help lead the charge to get them those funds, hence the supplemental funding. So if, for instance, those AP courses all suddenly fill up because students decide they have an interest in them and they need more funds to pay for them, I'm happy to help find a way to do that. I understand why the people are loath to do it prior to the need being established, given that, as you heard from some, that there were issues in the past, not particularly recently, but years past, prior school committees, where they would come to us for more funds and then run a significant surplus. I think a shell game was what was commonly referred to from a particular individual regarding a particular person's conduct that everyone seemed to agree on. Not a fan. Still not a fan. But I don't think we're looking at that now. I think the school department while I disagree with some of their choices, I do think they made an effort to do what was asked of them, which was to cut things that they could afford to cut, even if they didn't want to do it. Again, not a particularly large fan of it, but I understand. I also understand I'm ready and willing to provide the supplemental funding should they need it. And I think it would be, as I mentioned earlier, hypocritical if we suddenly changed our tune and said, no, those things that we told you to, like all those processes and efforts that we told you to do to trim things, now we changed our mind and just switch on a dime and scold them for doing exactly what we wanted them to do. It's not particularly fair. Just like how I don't think it would have been fair if we ourselves risked running a deficit on our end, hence my comments earlier. And I know that you heard from Mr. Fife earlier during public comment about how we're working on the efforts to address exemptions, to expand it, make them better without incurring more of a cost. That effort has not stopped. It is still ongoing. So that's a note for you, Mr. Fife, and for everyone else who has any interest in that fact. I thank the administration for taking the time to educate those of us that have reached out and the significant amount of time we spent during meetings. Obviously, this was almost double the amount of time we normally spent. So it's not a small thing. So it's much appreciated. They did it with little to no complaint. So thank you. And thank you to my fellow council members for the same. Clerk will please call the roll on the motion for favorable action.
Mr. Snappy.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuise.
Yes.
Mr. Foley.
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt.
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mr. Lavisa.
No.
Mr. Budo.
Yes.
Mr. Napa.
Yes.
Mr. Ricks.
No.
7-2, motion passes.
All right, so PCR 5626 as amended stands passed. We move to unanimous consent. Does anyone have anything for unanimous consent? See none, we stare at Councilman Foley.
Since there's no further business in front of this honorable body, I move to a docketing session.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? All right, into the docket session. Ward 1. Ward 2.
Pass.
Ward 3. Ward 4.
Pass.
5.
Pass.
6.
Pass.
7. 9. All right, so then I got the ones I already mentioned. Resolution relative to workers' compensation. Resolution relative to workers' compensation. It's probably going to the General Assembly if it goes anywhere. The resolution relative to state mandate.
Council President, resolution relative to TDI, not compensation, not workers' comp.
We'll just say workers' comp slash
It's a
TDI.
tentative title.
Yeah, tentative title, so.
That went to Intergov. The second one is the resolution relative to
State mandates.
state mandates is Intergov.
And then resolution relative to school department supplemental funding.
Finance.
Resolution to the state DOT regarding paving of Greenwich Avenue.
Intergov.
And an ordinance amending Appendix A zoning map for the city of Warwick, former Russell Aldridge Jr. Senior High School, Plat 288, Lot 59, existing Zone A-7, amend to A-7 with PDR overlay. This is on behalf of the mayor.
Public properties.
Request to co-sponsor.
Noted.
Thank you.
We stand adjourned at 9:25 p.m.